to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Here we go on a Thursday. I mean, the shows just keep getting better. The guests keep getting bigger. Joe Burrow on the show today. Live in Los Angeles, it's the Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, and FS1. It is Greg Cosell an hour from now, NFL Meat Sandwich. You bet football, you play fantasy football, you just want to get smarter at football. Also today, the return, we do it on an annual basis, of the quarterback face bracket. Now, it was a disaster the first year I tried it, which is I bet I take the NFL playoff bracket and I choose only who I perceive to be the better quarterback. Right now, today, this morning. I just pick quarterbacks. That's it. I pick the game based on the quarterback who today is hot, who's playing great, who's better. And the first year it was an abject disaster. Last year is pretty good. So I had the courage to go into the face of the criticism, the wind, after my first year disaster. So we bring it back, the quarterback face bracket, and it's just I just take the best quarterback in the moment.
It's solid strategy.
Coach, defense, skill, none of it matters.
How was your birthday? How was the banana cream pie?
I had 2 giant pieces. It was great. I feel fantastic. I got a lot of potassium in me right now.
Calories don't count on your birthday.
They don't. That's a new rule on the show.
Yeah.
Calories do not count. Here's what's going to count. What happens to Lamar Jackson this weekend? I just love this. Oh, my God. The pressure. Lamar Jackson's got all the pressure this weekend. Let's see. Ooh, he's won 81% of his games as a pro and has reached 30 victories faster than any quarterback in NFL history. Yeah, if he loses this weekend, I'm sure Baltimore will bail on him. It suddenly means he has no talent. It means he can never win a playoff game. Folks, Lamar Jackson's the only young quarterback we demand playoff excellence. Baker Mayfield, a number 1 pick. Lamar got drafted end of the first, almost second round. Baker Mayfield, first pick, but in the league longer. Nobody says he has to win this weekend. I mean, people are already making excuses for him. He's missing a backup wide receiver and a guard. I mean, Josh Allen, drafted much higher than Lamar Jackson, who was awful, like Shaq and a fool awful, like goofy play awful in his first playoff game last year. No, nobody's saying he has to win this weekend. I don't know what you can do with him. Kyler Murray finished the year 8-8. By the way, they started 5-2. Kyler Murray wasn't very good at the end of the year. He had a bad last 2 or 3 games. There's no pressure on Kyler Murray. In the last 3 years, 12 quarterbacks have been drafted in the first round. None have won a playoff game. It's sort of hard to do that and stuff, but all the pressure's on Lamar Jackson. Why? It's his 24th birthday today. Happy birthday, Lamar Jackson. He's the youngest quarterback in the playoffs. Every other quarterback in the NFL that's younger than Lamar Jackson, and there's 10 of them, they're not in the playoffs. They're not good enough to get in the playoffs. Folks, NBA stars, entire careers are about flaming out in the playoffs. Westbrook and James Harden, you still worship them. The kid's 0-2. Peyton Manning, top 5 quarterback ever, started his career 0-3 in the playoffs, including a 41-0 drubbing at the hand of the Jets. Bill Parcells, he had a couple playoff games in Dallas, 0-2. New England, 4-500. It's hard to win. He's a kid. Now, let's talk about, because you know I've been defending Lamar Jackson all year. When the rest of you bailed on this stock, I doubled down on this stock. I said, I'll take the stock you don't want, Lamar. Let me give you 5 people who there's real pressure on in the playoffs. Let's start with Bruce Arians. Okay, Tom Brady, 21 years, never had to go into the playoffs as a wild card. Don't screw it up, Bruce. You're facing a losing team, Bruce. You're facing the 32nd ranked offense, Bruce. Brady's never had to go in as a wild card. You got great weapons. There is pressure on Bruce Arians. You're going to face the losing playoff team whose coach was dealing with physical situations. Alex Smith. They got rid of the quarterback. They've been in chaos all year from the weakest division. His job, Bruce Arians' job, could be on the line if he loses. For the record, the more this offense with Tampa in the last 6 weeks has been Tom's offense, the better it's gotten. And Bruce Arians doesn't have a reputation as, a guy that grinds all night. Bruce Arians got pressure. He loses, my guess is he could be gone. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers. Folks, he is so far beyond regular season excellence. He's one of the great talents of all time. He's got unbelievable weapons. No more excuses with a coach. He gets a bye. There's no other great team in the NFC. This is the year he's got to win. He's got to win this year. Aaron's got to win. I think he's going to win a lot of games in the playoffs. But come on. He's going to be a huge favorite. At home, off a bye. He's got elite pieces. And again, he hasn't played enough home games at Lambeau. Now he gets them. In a year when kind of the NFC's top teams are all kind of shaky right now. Jared Goff is hurt. Drew Brees is old. Seattle's offense is right now atrocious. Pressure's on Aaron Rodgers. Here's a third one. Drew Brees. Dude, you open with Mitch Trubisky at home. You have, in my opinion, a stacked roster. I think the Saints have the best roster in the NFL. I really do. I mean, we talk about their offensive pieces. Alvin Kamara. Emmanuel Sanders, Michael Thomas, their O-line. Their defense is top 5 in everything. He's at home. His arm, he got hurt. His arm should be fresh. This is the end of the road for him. You want to be a great broadcaster, you don't want to end your career losing to Mitch Trubisky at home. There's real pressure on Drew Brees. I'll give you another one. Big Ben. He's got the best trio of wide receivers in the NFL. He's got the Defensive Player of the Year on his roster. He took a week off to get refreshed. He gets to play Cleveland. Do you know he's 21? 24, 2-1 against the Browns. He gets to go up against a rookie head coach. The Browns have COVID issues in the building. They won't have their head coach, which is overstated, but it's something. There's a lot of pressure on Big Ben, who took a week off to get rested, to play at home against a COVID-plagued football team. And then number 5, I'll say Lamar Jackson. There is a narrative building. I would acknowledge that. It's silly, but it's a narrative. But even with Lamar Jackson, if he just wins one playoff game, the narrative ends. And right now it's a silly narrative. He's won 81% of his games. He's what Lamar Jackson is what you see with great players. He's a victim of Lamar Jackson. He's so good, so early, so explosive, so fast. We think, well, how could he not win playoff games? Because Bill Parcells struggled too? Because Peyton Manning's career playoff record, 27 playoff games for Peyton Manning. He went 14-13. And for the record, even the last Super Bowl, he was mostly carried by defense. I want to hear about Lamar Jackson pressure. Aaron Rodgers, Bruce Arians, Brees, Big Ben. That's real pressure, not just a narrative. Lamar's is overwhelmingly narrative, and if he wins, it will thankfully go away. Oh, so excited today. Very excited. You know, it is interesting that with birthdays, the closer you are to death, you get rewarded with sugar. It is interesting, isn't it, how it works? I feel today full of potassium and energy. There'll be a crash probably. We have Greg Cosell, the start of next hour. We have Joe Burrow on. And let me just say this about Joe Burrow. So sometimes the media, and I think we kind of laugh at this. We push back at this a lot. There'll be these stories that aren't really stories. It is hard to fill 3 hours a day. It's hard to write 4 or 5 columns a week. Sometimes you make a reach. But this idea, I didn't like Joe Burrow. I've been communicating with him on social media. I push back on the idea that he was LeBron, Brady, Peyton Manning. No, I'm not joking. He was compared to those in articles, and I kept bringing him on. I said, he's Tony Romo. Going to be popular, a gamer, win a division at some point, win games, talked about, successful. Plays like him, looks like him, games like him. And it's amazing how that became you don't like him. No, I just said, could we take a deep breath? He's going to the Bengals. We all know where you land kind of matters. Don't you think Josh Allen's elevated a little by Sean McDermott? Don't you think Lamar's elevated a little by John Harbaugh, the great front office of the Ravens? You don't think Big Ben's been elevated through the years by Tomlin and the Rooneys? So Joe Burrow's an adult. Joe Burrow has reached out to me, and I've reached out to him, and I'm like, come on the show today. So I'm very excited
It's
for
very
him.
exciting.
And I said earlier, I'd like to be his friend.
Well, I thought it was very nice that he said you guys talked, and he said he was going to come on the show,
He said,
and then he's backed it up.
He said, I made a commitment to come on your show, and I would like to realize that commitment. I'd like to be your friend. So, yeah, this idea that you've worked with me now, how many years? 2-3 years?
Almost 3 years, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not here to pick on people. By the way, even Baker Mayfield, I always say, you're welcome back.
Baker came on the show.
Yes, and you're welcome back. And I would bring Baker on tomorrow. I'd bring Baker Mayfield on my show tomorrow. Not today, though. I've got Joe Burrow on today.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Black Rifle Coffee Company, veteran-owned, serving premium coffee. Purchase at www.blackriflecoffeecompany.com/herd. 20% off purchases. And your first coffee club order. I had a cup of coffee yesterday afternoon. Black Rifle Coffee. It was great. Nothing in it. Just the coffee. That's when I first tried coffee. Just don't put anything in it. Is the coffee good?
That's smart, actually.
First time.
Yeah.
And I put a little oat milk in it after that. First time, that was a good
Oh,
coffee.
you're an oat milk guy.
I am. Yeah, I think almond's too rich for me.
Yeah, I like almond.
Yeah, so does my wife.
I can do oat, but I prefer almond.
Yeah.
It's a very California thing.
Is it? Because they say, not to waste anybody's time, oat milk's actually one of a superfood.
Is it?
Yeah, I just found that out about a week ago.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is not a big almond milk market.
So, I'm going to say something, and you're going to think it's crazy. But 2004, Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, same draft. If Big Ben gets drafted by the Chargers, and Phillip Rivers gets drafted by Big Ben, Phillip Rivers has the trophies, and Big Ben just has a nice career and occasionally some Hall of Fame votes. Now, I know you're going to push back on that. Big Ben has been to 3 Super Bowls. He's won 2. But Big Ben is the definition of very fortunate to have landed where he landed. That is not disputing his size, arm talent, his overall talent. First of all, he was never as cool as Montana, Aikman, or Brady. He was never iconic like Manning, Favre, Elway. He is one of only 12 NFL quarterbacks to have 2+ Super Bowls, but he never beat a legend like Eli beat Brady twice. He played poorly in both Super Bowl wins. Big Ben's never won an MVP. He's never even been an all-pro, first or second team. He has no national commercials. Even his safety had a shampoo deal. To me, I think we forget that 30% of his wins are against the Browns and Bengals. He's 48-10-1. Well, Brady... Oh, no, Brady was great in the playoffs. 2. You put Big Ben behind worse, inferior offensive lines in San Diego with an ownership group not willing to spend that kind of money. I'm not disputing the talent, but he got 2 Hall of Fame head coaches, a Hall of Fame owner, a great general manager, and an unbelievable brand that attracts free agents. Just trade Phillip Rivers and Big Ben. I'm going to throw something out, and you didn't know this. How about this one? Phillip Rivers actually has been in more Pro Bowls than Big Ben. Worse offensive line, don't have the ownership group, never had the receiving talent. In Ben's first Super Bowl, 5 Pro Bowlers. He wasn't as good as Jerome Bettis, Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, James Harrison, Joey Porter, James Ferrier, Alan Faneca. Not in the first one. He played poorly. His wide receiver in that first Super Bowl had more touchdown passes than Ben did. His second Super Bowl, all 3 playoff wins, despite great receivers, he never threw more than 1 touchdown pass in any game. Great owner, Hall of Fame coach, lousy division, never been an MVP, never been a first or second team Pro Bowler. I am not disputing his talent. But I hear this a lot of times from successful people. They love to give themselves all the credit. I am just a great attorney. I'm an amazing doctor. I am a top salesperson. Go look at the genetics. Your parents were probably pretty smart. You don't become a 4-point Harvard anything, unless mom and dad probably had a little brain power as well. Probably had mostly stable life. Don't kid yourself on Big Ben. Don't kid yourself. Phillip Rivers and Big Ben swap different legacies. By the way, Ben should get into the Hall of Fame, not disputing that, not disputing his talent. And I do think he has more natural talent than Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers was a much better college quarterback. Phillip Rivers had more offers. Phillip Rivers, from a very early age, was a more mature quarterback. And Phillip Rivers had certainly more to overcome. Joy Taylor with the news.
Herd on the news. This is the Herdline News.
And I talk about that today because Ben yesterday said this could be my last playoff game. That was sort of the genesis of this. And I don't think it will be because I think he's going to fight to the last drink of NFL playoff football. But that's the start of it.
Well, Deshaun Watson had career best in completion percentage, passing yards, and passing touchdowns this season.
Yeah.
But the Texans still finished with a 4-12 record. Obviously, Bill O'Brien was fired this year, and now rumors are circulating that he could want out of Houston. According to Mike Florio, Watson has quietly spoken to some teammates about the possibility of requesting a trade from the team. It's going to depend a lot on who they hire as the next head coach.
I'd be fascinated to see. First of all, they get a lot in return. I'd be fascinated to see the market because he gets hit a lot of these expensive 2 ACLs, and he is more playmaker than beautiful thrower of the football. And there's a lot of coaches that have a system that, like, they're kind, and he's not one of those guys that plays within your system. He's just crazy. He's just running around making amazing plays.
Well, I think he's had to do that because they've been mostly terrible.
And I think that fits actually who I actually think he's at his best being allowed to be that. He's really dynamic at that.
I'd love to see him in a system, actually. I think that he is such a playmaker and has had to be such a playmaker for the Texans. Him being in a system where he has a little bit of order and has weapons around him and has, stability, he would actually thrive because we know what he can do under pressure, having to make things happen. I think the market would be massive for him if they can fit his contract. Now, if you're looking at what the trade would result in, it's a cap charge of $21.6 million, and he would get a lot of picks in a trade.
So you can totally justify that because Houston, if you had to pay a cap hit for a year, you'd get like so many picks.
Well, if you're losing Deshaun Watson, you're doing a complete rebuild anyway, so you'd want to get a bunch of picks. You're likely going to be terrible, so you're going to get a top pick anyway.
Let me throw a team out to you that I think he's actually perfect. New England. So they already experimented with a mobile quarterback for a year. They did the Cam thing. Deshaun's obviously way better than Cam. Secondly is, Belichick's like 67. You really want to go with a college quarterback from the Mountain West Conference?
No, I don't think he's going to.
Another thing is, who would mask New England's lack of dynamic flaws? Deshaun Watson. I mean, if Cam was more of a playmaker than he was 5 years ago, that would have masked more of their flaws despite their lack of dynamic. I mean,
Cam's clearly having trouble throwing the ball. So the shoulder thing is a problem.
So to me, I look at all the teams and I think, okay, New England just did the mobile quarterback thing. Belichick doesn't want to experiment with a Mountain West quarterback. At 15, that's what you're going to probably get. And the other thing is, it masks all their issues. I mean, they have no playmakers. They cannot get a pocket. Everybody's talking about Belichick getting the quarterback from Alabama.
Mac Jones.
He's a pocket quarterback. You have to have a playmaker in New England at quarterback because you have no playmakers on the perimeter.
Exactly. So, and to your point about not getting a college quarterback, you're getting, if they're going to go in that direction, how are you going to take a college quarterback that isn't, and not that Mac Jones hasn't had a great college career, like it's not a knock on Mac Jones, but the style of play doesn't fit a team that doesn't have any dynamic playmakers. college who can make things happen on his own.
You think I'm crazy about this, but Houston just hired a New England guy. The Nick Casario probably would be willing to move J.J. Watt. I think what New England needs is a 1 or 2 year dynamic edge rusher, J.J. Watt, and a dynamic quarterback. What would New England give up? This sounds crazy, to get J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson. The whole organization in Houston is former Patriots. They have relationships.
Yeah, they do.
And New England's got issues. They don't have dynamic players. Houston's got dynamic players. But needs massive picks, and their new coach is going to want to start over.
I like Deshaun to New England.
Am I not on that?
After I don't know about both of them going to New England, but I think Deshaun would actually do really well in New England.
Oh, of course.
And after the final game, Deshaun said that they need a culture shift. So he's interested in going somewhere that has an established, or being somewhere
that isn't crazy town.
Yes, that has an established culture. It has to be exhausting to be there, especially when you're as dynamic of a player as Deshaun is.
I literally just created the Deshaun Watson trade. This is now, when you were a kid and you get a 90 on a test or an 80, and the teacher had what was key to the answers. I have the answer to New England. They need a dynamic edge rusher and a dynamic quarterback. Because if you think you're going to bring a college pocket quarterback in and he's going to solve that offense,
in a division now with Josh Allen and the Miami defense,
and Brian Flores and Sean McDermott, and Deshaun in New England, I think is perfect.
So the Chargers are one of the 6 teams looking for a new head coach as well as Houston, and GM Tom Telesco is not going to rush the process or give a timetable for when he expects to fill the role. He said if it's something we have to wait for, we'll wait and we'll make it work. So far they have requested interviews with Eric Bieniemy, Chiefs offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, the Panthers offensive coordinator, Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, Colts DC Matt Eberflus, Giants OC Jason Garrett, and the Rams defensive coordinator Brandon Staley.
Boy, any of those guys ever been a head coach?
I know people are not going to like it, but I think Jason Garrett is good for this job.
Okay, Garrett to me. I know he's not cool. I know he wears button-down Oxfords. I know he's not lit, but I'm telling you, I see one head coach in there.
Well, I just think that they need someone who's going to take them to the next level right now. I do think someone who hasn't been a head coach before could come in and be successful there. But the reason that they fired him was because he wasn't reaching the full potential of what they needed to do there.
This team is like an inch away.
Yes, the Chargers are a good team.
They won 4 straight down
Don't pay attention to their record. Sometimes you can say you are what your record says you are. That's not the case with the Chargers. On top of the fact that they've got a stage set place, they've got something weird going on.
What's that? Oh God!
They moved to whole cities, and it's come with them. It's time. You need a healer. There's lots of them in LA.
Cities.
Just put some crystals up and figure that out. Finally, Chase Young has made it known that he was looking forward to facing Brady and the Bucs, yelling "I want Tom" after clinching their playoff spot. And when he was asked about the comment, Brady tried to be a little more diplomatic, but Chase has doubled down.
He's obviously a great young player, so we got our hands full with that D-line. Went to Ohio State, so naturally I think the Ohio State Michigan thing wears off on him a little bit.
I'm excited for every game, man. And Tom Brady, you think I'm not going to be excited to play against the GOAT? Then you tripping. And that is what it is. I'm excited to play against Big Tom. I'm not going to apologize for saying I want Tom. No, I want Tom Brady.
I like all these. We had Terry McLaurin on yesterday. He was all sorts of personality, and now you got Chase Young.
I love what they're doing in Washington. I think they're just a few pieces away from really being...
They're a quarterback away.
Yes, yeah. I think they need a few more offensive pieces as well because their defense is completely solid. But this is going to be a fun game. I mean, we're going to be paying close attention to this one just because it's Tom Brady and his first playoff game with the Bucs.
I think it's going to be close.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it's going to... This is the one... underdog I like this weekend to keep it really ugly and close.
You know there's going to be an upset, right?
Of course.
So, do you have an upset pick?
I just think this is going to get uncomfortable. Now, the Rams are also an underdog to Seattle.
Yeah, but the Rams-Seattle game feels like it could go either way. It doesn't really, that's going to be a very competitive game, but I don't know that it's, wild to say that either one of them would win that game.
I don't know. That tomorrow, we're going to do a segment on that. There's going to be an upset. We're going to demand you pick the upset.
Okay, I'll think about it.
And me too.
Yeah.
Okay, enjoy the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Fox Sports NFL analyst Mark Schlereth now joining me. 3 Super Bowl rings, 2-time Pro Bowler. So I was saying this. Big Ben said yesterday, this could be my last playoff game. And I started saying, I said, where you land matters. He's never been an MVP. He's never been a first or second team Pro Bowler. In fact, Philip Rivers been a Pro Bowler. He didn't have the owner. He didn't have the GM. He didn't have the coach. He didn't have the offensive line. I'd argue he didn't have the weapons. And I just said, Philip Rivers is going to get Hall of Fame votes. Ben's going to get in, and I think if they'd have traded places, the careers could look different. I mean, how do you look at Big Ben?
Well, one, I mean, the whole, I'm like, this may be my last playoff game. There is a certain amount of drama that comes with Big Ben. Like, ever watch him? Like, he can twist his ankle, and the next week he comes out and he's got like a size 22 clown shoe on. Yeah, like, look how bad my ankle is. Oh, it's terrible. And he's going to go out there and play because that's just how Ben operates. But I will say this about Big Ben. I think early in his career, Colin, he was groomed, if you will. They had a great running game. It was the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they had a great defense and all those different things. I think here in the last 8-10 years, offensively, they have just put it on his shoulders to say, go out and win games for us. And he's been able to do that, albeit in a bad division that had Cleveland and Cincinnati that were competitive during those times. But he is asked to do a ton. And when you watch them on film, they are so far removed from the way you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think of the Pittsburgh Steelers back in, the Franco Harris, Terry Bradshaw days and even early days in Ben Roethlisberger's career with Jerome Bettis, and they're going to run the ball, they're going to control the line of scrimmage. This is a 4 wides, 5 wides, spread offensive football team. Throw it underneath, let your quarterback do all the work. I just think they're a little bit different. I think he's been asked to do those things, and I think he's been exceptional in doing those things, even without an All-Pro. I mean, the problem is, you're comparing Ben Roethlisberger and say, hey, he's never been All-Pro. Well, during that time, Peyton Manning was in the AFC, Tom Brady was in the AFC. It's hard to get All-Pro when you've got 2 GOATs in the same division as you.
I said to start my show today, there is a narrative about Lamar, and I do think if he wins just a playoff game, it'll subside. I think there's bigger pressure on Aaron, Bruce Arians, Big Ben. Now that Cleveland's facing some COVID issues, I think sometimes it happens, Mark, that you become a victim of yourself. Of the 12 quarterbacks last 3 years that have been drafted in the first round, none have won a playoff game, but it feels like it's all on Lamar to win a playoff game. I think some of that is he's just so dynamic that we're like, oh my God, you got to win playoff games. Like, I don't think if he loses a playoff game, I mean, if it's 31-30, and Tannehill throws a bomb to end it, I don't think less of Lamar Jackson. Your thoughts on him going into the weekend?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to go, and I agree with you on that. He's a kind of a victim of his own greatness. And part of the issue, Colin, is that John Harbaugh made a decision when they decided to go full time with Lamar Jackson, and that decision was, we're going to completely scrap pile anything traditional about what our offense is, and we're going to put it all on Lamar Jackson's shoulders. He's going to run the ball. I mean, think about this. He's a top 5 running back in the league right now, and a top 5 quarterback. Like, statistically, that's what he is. And so they have put it all on him, and they built a system around him. So they got together as a coaching staff with Greg Roman as the offense coordinator, Wink Martindale as the defense coordinator, and they built a team that's complementary based upon what they want to do as an offense. And they completely turn the league on its head because nobody knows how to defend this kind of offense. But it all is predicated on, hey, Lamar, we're going to run the ball. We're going to get 11-on-11 football, true football, with you being a ball carrier. We've got all kinds of different offense that we're going to do. We're still creating plays that defenses have never seen, that they don't have to defend. And oh, by the way, defensively, what we're going to do is we're going to be a high-pressure, high-blitz football team because we know ultimately when you play us as an offense and we run the ball, we're eliminating the other offense's possessions down to about 8 or 9. So we get up by 7, it feels like we're up by 21.
Yeah.
And so now we can be aggressive. Now we make you one-dimensional. So I think one of the reasons that there is so much pressure and so much just on Lamar Jackson's shoulders is because that's how they built this football team. So that's how we look at it. Hey, look, Lamar doesn't play well. They don't win.
Yeah.
You can overcome inconsistencies from your quarterback position on other teams occasionally because hey, we've got a great defense and we've got a great running game and we've got a receiver that's big time and stuff. Here it's Lamar. You're going to lead us wherever we go, and if you don't play well or the defense, that you're playing puts a couple turnovers together, then you're going to get the lion's share of the blame, and that's just the way this team has been built.
Do you trust? I don't. I don't think Kansas City's offense played particularly well in December. I don't know if I trust them right now this morning. Do you?
I trust them. Simply because of their quarterback. I'm with you on a lack of trust, like the difference between rest and rust. And you took off a lot in December that you didn't play exceptionally well, and then you took week 17 off as an offense, and then you get the bye week. Like that is a recipe for disaster. How long and how many more games can Patrick Mahomes come down to the end and say, "Let me hoist this the rest of this offense on my shoulders. Let me hoist this football team on my shoulders. Let's drive down here and win a football game." Like eventually you've got to think the law of averages. That's not going to work at some point. But he is exceptional. They are an exceptionally talented football team. There's no question. Part of the whole thing in December, Colin, is I think one of the big issues, and I've been on really good teams. I've been on an 11-0 team to start the season. I've been on a 13-0 team to start the season. One of the biggest things you have to guard against is boredom. And I think one of the things that Andy Reid has done an exceptional job of, you see all these trick formations and these trick plays, and it's to keep guys engaged. Because they know, they're like global, Jim. We're better than you, and we know it. They walk into a game just knowing they're better. They're more talented. And so keeping guys engaged over the course of a season, which you're better than everybody else, is a tough task. So we'll see exactly how they operate coming down the stretch, and if they can get into this when they get into this playoff as the number one seed, if they can be on all cylinders, or if that takes some time. Because if it takes some time, ultimately you play a team like Buffalo. If you get to that point, Buffalo is a damn good football team, and they've got a chance to beat you. There's no question in my mind.
A 7-point spread or more in the NFL, you're a big favorite. Saints are a big favorite. Tampa Bay's a big favorite. Buffalo's a big favorite. If I said to you, there's going to be an upset this weekend, which there almost always is, where's it going to come from?
Well, I think Pittsburgh right now is a 6-point favorite, and I know you don't have your head coach calling plays, and that's that could be a disaster. But when you can run the ball and you can control the clock, and all of a sudden you put your opponent in a position where you're eliminating possessions, that's a scary thing, right? And so that's a team that scares me a little bit. I think Cleveland is built in a way where they can compete with anybody. It scares me that they don't have their main play caller. I think that's a real issue, Kevin Stefanski being out, but that would be the one to me that would be the biggest upset, because they just haven't. Pittsburgh has played poorly down the stretch. They've actually in the last 4 or 5 weeks they've had one half of football where they've actually
That's
played
right.
well.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. That second half, they got some
like Indianapolis,
and they got some pass interference breaks. They got 3 calls, 2 were shaky. So even then, a little bit of a break. Mark Schlereth, 3 rings from Super Bowls, multiple-time Pro Bowler. Good seeing you, Mark.
Likewise, Colin. Take care, buddy.
Top of the hour, like football, fantasy football, bet football. Greg Cosell. Our NFL meat sandwich. Joe Burrow of the Bengals, great young quarterback talent, will be joining us today. Coming up next, just how big the Brady departure from New England was. Wait till you hear this.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Joy Taylor said something to me about 4 or 5 months ago. We were in a radio studio in COVID, and I think it might have been 6 months ago. And you said between our president and our COVID that you really saw so many people unraveling, a lot of politicians. And it was like, I think I'm smarter than I ever gave myself credit for. And you said, and I thought that, and I took that.
Oh, I said that?
Yeah, and I told Dan,
yeah.
I said, you watch all these people unraveling. Folks, yesterday, of course that's how Donald Trump's presidency ended. In chaos. Of course it ended that way. Have you paid attention for 4 years? I've met a lot of smart people. Never have I met a politician and thought, that is a brainiac. We got so many dumb politicians. Supported Trump. Now they're all running from him. You couldn't see it coming? You thought it was going to ends smoothly. Really?
I mean, I don't think that many people thought
we didn't predict that.
they were going to try and overthrow the government.
No, but I mean, you thought it was just going to end just elegantly, and no, of course it was utter mayhem.
We haven't had an elegant day in 4 years.
In 4 years, we haven't had a refined, elegant. It's all been agitation and rib poking and. Ugh. Oh, by the way, so here's a stat. So the Patriots missed Tom Brady a lot, right? But a story came out today. Actually, their defense, more than any NFL unit in the NFL. Offense, defense, special teams. The biggest decline in the NFL was New England's defense. Forget that it's more than their offense. It was the number one decline in the NFL was New England's defense. To that I would say, oh no, that's Brady too. New England's time of possession with Brady was 4th in the league. This year it was 28th. They didn't have the ball. So the defense was asked to do more. And also I believe defenses, you see this with the Bears and Trubisky, defenses perform worse when they feel the offense is more futile. You give up earlier in games. Like you just can't, you just know you're not. Michael Vick came into Atlanta, and there was a stat like when Michael played, the defense played better because they always thought he'll save us. We just give Michael one more possession. People forget what you lose with Brady. He's so far above. You lose his IQ. You lose his will. You lose his work ethic. You lose his. It's like Tim Duncan. The Spurs didn't lose a player. He was the hardest working Spur. He was the most selfless. He took pay cuts. You walked into that organization with Tim Duncan in San Antonio. Well, it's not about money because Tim Duncan is not about money. When Brett Favre left Green Bay, they were fine. He was their most talented player, but he wasn't their North Star. He wasn't a workaholic. He was loose, talented, a gunslinger. But he wasn't a grinder. He wasn't all in until the season started. Tom Brady is losing your phone. Brett Favre is losing your phone charger. There's another one out there. Aaron Rodgers, I think intellectually is better than Favre. I think he's more coachable than Favre. I think he's more amenable to change than Favre. There is no other Brady. There's never been another Brady. You get the IQ, the coach. Ability, I'll take a pay cut. It's very Tim Duncan. We just didn't talk Duncan as much because we don't, he was quiet and never in the news. People just, you can lose your phone charger and it stinks, but you can find one in the house. New England's defense is bad. Belichick looks small. The team's uninteresting. They're not even now really a television product. Do you want to watch New England? I mean, that's why I think they have to go out and get a Deshaun Watson. If I'm the owner, I want us to be watchable again, because in that division now, you get the Tua controversy, you get Josh Allen. You may get Justin Fields. New England's boring. They're boring now. So, it is, and I like Favre. But Brett Favre didn't define the culture of Green Bay. In fact, I could argue he was the opposite of their culture. Green Bay has always sort of been, we wear khakis. It's very, we don't spend the money. We save for a rainy day. We max our 401k. Favre's a maverick. Favre owns his own business. Favre's go to Vegas, put all the chips in the middle of the table. That's the opposite of Green Bay. Favre was just a wildly stupid, talented, crazy town arm gunslinger. He wasn't the Packer brand. Brady was everything. Now the defense stinks. He was the work ethic. He was the academic, the willfulness, the take a pay cut, the resourcefulness, the coachability. You looked at Tom and Tim Duncan, I should probably take a pay cut. I mean, and by the way, we haven't talked Spurs for a minute since Duncan left. Greg Cosell next. Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Here we go. What a day it is today. It's the Herd live in Los Angeles. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, FS1. Do you know, Joy, our show is so find room for them to be on the show, and I may comply. I'm in the mood today, a giving mood, to allow you to be on this juggernaut of a broadcast. Joy Taylor is joining me.
We do a good show.
I had a California dinner party last night, very small, social distancing, and people talking very positively about your contributions to everybody likes Joy Taylor.
Thank you.
They like Joy Taylor.
It's good to be liked.
It is good to be liked. It's even better to be loved.
It is, but I'll take like. In today's environment, I'll take like.
That's right. For me. Thank you. Good enough. Greg Cosell in a couple of minutes. By the way, I saw this article. I don't know who wrote it. I didn't want to know who wrote it because it's not great, and I don't want to be out there hammering media people. But somebody wrote it, and I really don't know who wrote it. Ranking the NFL playoff offenses 1 through 14. Which team's offense do you trust the most? It's based on trustworthiness. It's got Kansas City number 1. What? It's not the most dynamic. It's not the highest ceiling. Trustworthy? Have you watched them play? Why couldn't they score any points against Atlanta and their horrible defense? Brady picked them apart twice in the last 3 weeks. Kansas City struggled with that defense. Trust is about consistency and production. If I said, well, right now, which one of your kids do you trust with the money? You'd say, well, who's consistently most mature? Trust is all about consistency, not talent. There's a lot of people with talent I don't trust. Trust is, what do you get every day? What do you get every week from your kids, your boss, your coworkers? Aaron Rodgers has had one bad game all year. Number 1 is Green Bay. I trust Aaron Rodgers more than anybody. Number 2, Baltimore is on fire in December. Buffalo Bills, 10 straight weeks of dynamic performances. This isn't a movie poster question. If it's a movie poster, Kansas City wins. Fastest receiver, greatest tight end talent I've ever seen, most clever play designer, and the crazy talented Patrick Mahomes. They are the best movie poster in the NFL for any offense. But Patrick Mahomes' last 5 games, he's got 6 turnovers. He had 2 in all the other games combined. Patrick Mahomes' last 4 games, passer rating under 90, completion percentage 60? How's that possible with that offense? By the way, in December he took more sacks. In December they scored fewer points. Trustworthiness is about consistency. It's not a movie poster. We're not asking most dynamic. We're not asking highest ceiling. Green Bay and Buffalo's offense, I trust way more than even when Kansas City's offense is great. It's usually great for a half. They have these spurts. They have these Golden State Kevin Durant, Steph Clay spurts. They're not great for the entire game, but for like 7 minutes, Durant, Clay, and Steph got hot, and you're like, okay, we'll see you tomorrow night. Game over. Thanks for flying United. That's what Kansas City, even in the games they win, they fall behind. So let's go to Greg Cosell, 41 years, NFL Films, joining us now live. Speaking of trustworthiness, I would have sworn, if you'd have told me a month ago, okay, Seattle's running backs are going to get healthy, I would have said, all right, baby, this offense is going to fly to the moon. I've watched Seattle 3 weeks in a row, Greg. What is wrong with this offense?
Well, I think it starts with Russell Wilson, and now they're trying to figure out what they should be, Colin, because obviously the first 6 or 7 weeks, it was less Russ cook. He cooked. He's not been very good over the last month or so. So the pass game right now is kind of the perfect negative storm. Wilson's not seeing things. Clearly, the O-line struggles at times to protect. Wilson now perceives pressure. The result is there's no rhythm. There's kind of an undisciplined randomness to Wilson's play right now. Now, he can make plays that way because of his high-level second reaction ability, but he's not played well. Keep this thought in mind. In the last 4 games, DK Metcalf has not had a reception of 20 yards. Think about that for a minute. There's been no big play element to their offense over the last 4 games, and even going back further.
Wow, that's interesting. That's why I've said if you're a bettor, Rams and a bunch of points is interesting. I think that game comes down to a final series. Now, Everybody's going to talk about Buffalo in the Buffalo Colts game, but I want to talk because I think you did too. I loved Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin. I thought he was just.
I did.
About every third year, the Big Ten gives us a Zeke, a Saquon Barkley, a Jonathan Taylor, and I love all of them. But it took a while for this offense. Maybe it's because he's a rookie and there's no preseason. But when I watch that offense, and if I was Buffalo, I get the nightmare, which is, oh brother, we're going to be watching the second half of this game, him running. What triggered Jonathan Taylor in the offense to finally click, in your opinion?
Well, I think they wanted him to be that guy early on. That's why they drafted him. My sense was early on, and I don't know what's in his head, but my sense watching him early on was that he was trying to figure out how to run in the league. You didn't see the decisiveness that he ran with it in college. And I think as he's gained experience and understood the blocking schemes, understood the NFL speed and the pursuit angles, I think he's shown the traits now that we saw coming out of Wisconsin. And they've leaned on him, Colin, much, much more. I mean, he's averaging close to 20 carries game over the last 6 games. They've used him as a closer. They've used him to start games on their opening drive where he'll carry 6 times, 7 times. So they've almost made him the foundation of their offense right now, and it'll be very interesting to see what their approach is versus Buffalo, assuming Buffalo continues to play at such a high level offensively.
Is the Buffalo story Josh Allen's improvement schematically? Stephon Diggs, like it's made a significant leap in the last 15 games. What do we credit that leap to?
So much of it to me is Josh Allen because, look, Brian Dable's been there. They've ran a lot of the same plays the last 2 years. I think Josh Allen has gotten so much better in 2 distinct areas. Number one is his ability to make sustaining throws. I'm talking about throws under 10 yards, on third down in particular, that will require pace and touch, not a rocket arm. And then the second part of that is his ability on the intermediate and deeper throws to be much more precise with his ball placement. The one thing we're not seeing, Colin, and you mentioned the 10 games, that they've been great offensively, is we're not seeing him miss throws now.
Yeah.
There used to be stretches where he would just miss throws where you'd say, wow, you got to make that throw. He's not missing those kinds of throws. His ball placement has been so much more precise. And one other point, if I may, patience. I think he's no longer trying to force throws with that big arm. I think if it's not there, he's either leaving the pocket or he's throwing something short of a check down variety. So those 3 things I think really stand out watching the tape of Josh Allen.
All right, let's talk Tampa Bay. Playing on the road against the Washington football team. And the question that I think is the one that jumps out to me. If Washington makes Tom uncomfortable, you got a football game. How does Washington get after Brady? Because that is the story of the game. If they can do it, we got a game.
Well, I think here's the way I think it'll play out because of Bruce Arians. I think it'll play out this way. He'll start the game getting all 5 eligible receivers out, seeing if they can pass protect versus Washington's defensive front with their 5 offensive linemen. If they can do that, and I'm not saying they will, but if they can, then I think they'll have a very difficult time on defense because Brady, Colin, is throwing the ball so well right now. It is coming out of his hand with juice, with velocity. He looks like he's 25 years old while he's throwing the football. If they can't protect with 5, then that changes the dynamic of this game because the pass game is all about numbers. You want to get your 5 eligibles out, but if you can't protect, then now you have to keep either a 6th guy in, maybe a 7th guy, depending on how it goes. And that changes what you can do with your route concepts in the pass game. So I think they'll start with a 5-man protection with their O-line and see if they can protect against that really, really good Washington defensive front.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say Brady's throwing that well. I mean,
really well.
Some of it is
really at a high level.
This will sound crazy. Some of it is it's 78 degrees. He's old.
Yeah,
and I wonder if some of it's he's loose.
Yeah, I don't know what the weather's supposed to be in Washington, but I mean, I don't think it's supposed to be terrible.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Saints and Bears. And New Orleans is obviously the story here. I think it's a really, really talented roster. But the story will be this. If Trubisky can get in any kind of rhythm, you may have a football game. Chicago's got a good defense.
Yeah.
I thought the Trubisky winning streak felt like a little fool's gold to me. Is everybody gets hot. Tebow got hot. What do you do with Trubisky? You see the film. What do you do going forward here?
I've always been a believer, and I actually learned this from coaches early on in this business when I really started watching coaching tape and I was trying to learn from everybody I could. Coaches often tell you what they think of their quarterback by what they ask him to do and what it's clear that they're asking them not to do. And I think it's evident watching the tape now that the Bears are really trying to minimize Trubisky's limitations because he has limitations. They don't ask him to do very much. So, one thing I think you might see in this game, because he does have good legs, I think you might see more designed runs. They do use a lot of play action and play action boot, getting him out of the pocket by design in the pass game, but it would not surprise me against that really aggressive Saints front if they do some more with design run game, because I think you need to do that with Trubisky. He's not a drop back passer. That's his limitation. And so obviously their defense becomes very important as well, because if they fall behind, then he has to become a drop back passer, and that's not his strength.
No, this is obvious, right? But it's something that's not talked about. What a coach! When I watch a football team play, and I watch Buffalo with Josh Allen, they're telling you, oh, he can do everything. There's no limitations to the offense. When I watch Tua, I don't feel that way. No, I mean, I just don't. I see a team coaching him, and I see a box. I see invisible borders on what they want him to do. All right, so Pittsburgh, Cleveland. Let's discuss this. I think the story of this game is not on the Pittsburgh side. I think Ben's rested. They've been here before. They're favorites. Is Stefanski's out, and Baker will not have his play caller.
Right.
Will it matter in your opinion here?
The way I look at it, because there's no way to know, is philosophically their offense won't change in terms of what they would like to do. Now you're getting into specific play calls in critical situations, and that's impossible to know what Alex Van Pelt might call. But philosophically, unless their defense falls apart and the game gets out of hand early, if it's a relatively close game, we know what they want to be and what they are philosophically. It's a run game, it's play action boot. If the game flows in which they can do that, we know that's what they'll do. The question becomes 3rd and 7, red zone, then it's specific play calls, and that's what we just really don't know. It's so hard to be predictive in that way.
Interesting. So one of the more maddening teams this year is in Tennessee. Depending on the weekend or the half you see them. I can't get that loss to the Bengals out of my head. I mean, they just were completely dominated. But you also can't get some of their better performances out of your head. So it's interesting to me. I would think they'd be more consistent because they're very Derrick Henry led, and I get the same Derrick every weekend. He's very dependable. Right. I would think, just give the ball to Derrick. We'll get the same team. But can Derrick Henry with this offense lead them on a long playoff run?
Well, they made it to the AFC Championship game a year ago when we're ahead against the Chiefs, I guess, in the second half. Their defense is probably the biggest issue. Are they a championship caliber defense? Because they have two major issues. They can't rush the quarterback, and they've got issues in the secondary. So their pass defense can really struggle at times. And when your pass defense struggles, that's an issue because of the explosive play element for the opponent. But they're another team. They're defined. We know what they're going to do. Now, Ryan Tannehill's a pretty good thrower. And there's always a debate as to whether Tannehill is kind of built for this offense or if he's more than that. And in a sense, we don't know, because right now this is the offense in which he plays, and he functions very effectively and very efficiently in it. But we saw last week in a game they had to win the division, where they got down with 16 seconds to go, and they actually called a play to take a shot, and he made a phenomenal throw. That's a throw that was not play action. It had nothing to do with Derrick Henry, and he made a phenomenal throw. So, and we're going to show that play.
Let's show it. Let's show the Tannehill play.
Yeah, here it is. I think it was 18 or 16 seconds when you talk about the Tannehill play. And, this was a real interesting play. He's in the gun. and they've got two receivers to the field. It's A.J. Brown and Corey Davis just inside. Now, I think they anticipated the coverage here, Colin. They got cover 4 quarters, which the Texans like to play. It's a foundation coverage, and they attacked this coverage. And here's how they attacked it. They had Corey Davis from the inside run vertically. And when you run vertically against cover 4, that safety has to match up. That's his responsibility. So now you end up with one-on-one on the outside with A.J. Brown against a corner, an outside leverage corner, because it's a zone concept. So they specifically attacked this coverage, and you can see it with the ISO. You can see that the corner is playing outside leverage, and there's no safety help because of the route inside by Corey Davis. So my sense is they anticipated this coverage. They called a play to attack the coverage. We can debate whether it's the right coverage call. That's a different question. But they attacked that coverage. There was no bust, no breakdown. They just won against that coverage call.
Greg Cosell, NFL Meat Sandwich. You bet it. You play fantasy. You just love the sport. Nothing better. Greg, thank you so much.
Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it.
Joe Burrow's going to join us last hour. That Deshaun Watson trade, I'm telling you, I'm going to engineer that thing for New England. Doesn't it make sense? You can't get a drop-back passer for New England's offense. That doesn't solve your issues. You're bad at tight end. You're not special at running back. You're atrocious at wide receiver. If you're New England, you have the 15th pick, and you say, okay, we'll give you a ton of picks, and just get me Deshaun. All you have to do after that is just draft one receiver who can play a little.
Well, for New England, that's kind of...
I know, that's a big ask. For every other team, it seems very easy. It's not one of their more redeemable qualities in New England.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
Get ready for a Super Wild Card Weekend. For the first time ever, it's 2 days of triple headers. Super Wild Card Weekend kicks off Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be one wild Wild Card weekend.
Yeah, that first game Saturday that always has the AFC South in it. It's the first team out game. That feels like an AFC South game. Okay, so I got to ask you. So there's 3 games. Like, I don't think a 4 or 5 point spread is a major upset. You get into like 7 points. So Buffalo's favored by almost a touchdown. Tampa Bay's favored by about 8. New Orleans is favored by 8.5, 9. Pittsburgh's favored by what now? 5.5 on Fox Bet?
6 on Fox Bet.
That doesn't qualify as an upset, though, does it?
I think, especially considering that they don't have their coach and all the...
Okay, so tomorrow the big game is Colts Bills. Saturday, Colts Bills. Tampa, Washington, Chicago, New Orleans, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. One of those favorites is going to lose.
Right.
Which favorite? Tampa, Washington feels like it's going to be Tom Brady playing at night. He struggled at night. It's going to be a big pass
Which
run.
one is the biggest upset, though?
Oh, the Bears beating New Orleans. I just don't.
I think so too, just because the Bears did have a 6-game losing streak.
I mean, if Cleveland ran the ball well and Baker and Cleveland won 24-23 against a struggling Steeler offense.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be that dramatic. And
I think it'd be dramatic.
But Washington, but it wouldn't be Saints. I think Bills, Colts, if the Colts won, that would be...
Oh, my God, I'll throw up all over my shoes. I'll just not even be... And by the way, I love Chris Fowler, the GM. I love the Colts.
No, but the Bills are coming into the playoffs
because
on fire. Josh Allen's in the MVP
and
conversation.
Also, if the Colts beat the Bills, we know that's the end of the road. If Buffalo rolls, you start looking around at Kansas City, you're like, who wants a piece of that team? If you do get, like, let's say Cleveland upsets Pittsburgh, it's kind of the end of the road.
Right.
Like I want to see teams win that I feel can win multiple games. Like I don't think, like Baltimore, I do think could give Pittsburgh, could give Buffalo. I think Baltimore's no fun to play.
Yeah, I think they could win multiple.
But I like the Colts, the Browns, the Bears, the Rams. They feel like if they won, the lesser team won, and now it's almost what I always say about March Madness. Everybody's like, oh, love upsets. I don't. If Duke loses, I'm stuck with Wofford the next week. So it's great in the March Madness is at its best when Duke wins at the buzzer.
Right.
The favorites win, but man, the game is what. But like Bucknell beat Syracuse. Then I'm stuck watching Bucknell 5 days later. Nobody wins. Joy with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
I don't know if the Colts are fuck now, but I see your point.
You know what I mean? Like I'm always rooting for good television and good content.
Oh yeah, you want the better teams playing. But honestly, I feel like every single game is wildly interesting and is going to be good. Like whether it's high scoring or not. Like there's all of these games to me are incredibly interesting.
I mean, what if Chicago gets pressure on Drew Brees and you know they don't throw the ball over the top? Like my thing is with Washington and Tampa, and with Chicago and New Orleans, when you get a 40-year-old quarterback and they're real close to retirement, Drew Brees is going to be in the broadcast booth in a month. He doesn't want to get smoked. And all of a sudden, like, there's pressure, and he gets out of rhythm. You can see Drew, like, really struggling against the Bears defense.
Well, speaking of some of those old quarterbacks, Ben Roethlisberger has plenty of playoff experience. He's 38 years old, and he knows the end of his career is near, and he's looking at this weekend as if it could be his last time playing in the postseason.
Every player should approach this playoff game like it could be their last playoff game ever. We've used examples of players and coaches that have been in this league for a long time that have never been in the postseason, never been to a Super Bowl, whatever it may be. So I think it's prudent for every player to take that mindset and that approach, and I know I am, because nothing's guaranteed in this game or this world.
I don't think it will be, though. I don't think, there, like we talked about a certain president leaving, there are certain things that you know are going to end with bumps. Big Ben has been so dramatic, and he's got a Favre feel to him. I'm going to retire. I'm not going to retire. I'm going to retire. I don't want to learn a new trick. It feels like it won't just be, okay, I lost and I'm done, and he disappears into the wilderness. I feel like with Ben, there'll be stories.
Well, Ben is, as Mark Schlereth said earlier, he has a flair for the dramatics, and he's also not been open to the Steelers bringing along the heir to the franchise.
Yeah.
So if he does retire after this season, which who knows if he will or not, what are the Steelers going to do? They got Mason Rudolph?
Well, I think, I don't know if you were on the phone call this morning. It is kind of remarkable. Garoppolo could be on the market. Deshaun could be on the market.
I think Sam Darnold would be great in Pittsburgh.
Stafford could be on the market. Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz. There's a lot. Forget the
Talk
draft.
about Deshaun being traded.
Yeah, like forget the draft.
No,
There's a
there's
lot of
the market for. There never used to be a free agent market
What
for
about Marcus
quarterbacks.
Mariota? I don't know.
I mean, look, he had a fun game.
All right, that's
I don't want to
true.
get too crazy about
Fair,
that.
Fair.
It was fun. I enjoyed it. I was rooting for him.
Fair.
They still lost. I don't look. Steelers fans know what it's like not to have a quarterback. So this could be a bad situation if Ben retires. Obviously a Hall of Famer. I mean, 7th all-time in passing yards, 8th all-time in passing touchdowns, won 2 Super Bowls, 6-time Pro Bowler, Offensive Rookie of the Year. And he's had an amazing career. It's been an interesting career, to say the least, but I don't think it's the end, though. I think he has another year in
So
him.
I totally agree. I don't. It is what Schlereth said though is interesting. Last 10 quarters, last 4 games, he's had one great half.
Yeah.
One where he threw the ball down the field, and the other ones weren't even average. It was like bad. So my thing is, when he did the rest, I think he'll at least be somewhat similar to his second half against the Colts. And if he is, then I think they win.
They are favored by 6, according to Fox Bet. So the Bears' offense is going to have to step up to keep pace with the Saints, who average just over 30 points per game this season. That's amazing, actually. 30 points per game.
Yeah.
But that's going to be tough against a New Orleans defense that's only allowed the 5th fewest points per game. Trubisky is still hoping the offense will open up and be aggressive on Sunday, and he said one area they need to work on is finding a way to get touchdowns instead of field goals when they reach the red zone. Yes, field goals is not going to get it done against the Saints. The Bears got to the red zone 5 times against the Packers last week, but only scored a touchdown once, and 3 of those drives resulted in field goals. That's that's essentially what it's going to look like if you do that. Like, the Packers and the Saints are 2 great teams. The Packers can throw over the top, obviously, of Devontae Adams. Like, at any moment, they can get big chunk yards and open it up on you.
Right.
The Saints don't have as much of a threat of that, but they do score a lot of points. And they have Alvin Kamara, who had an unbelievable game a few weeks ago, and completely dynamic. It's going to be a problem if they don't score points when they get in the red zone. Like, that's what it comes down to for the Bears. The Saints are favored by 10.
Like, Chicago should go into this game hyper-aggressive. Go for it on any fourth down inside the 42.
Well, that's what Trubisky's saying. Like, they're going to have to be aggressive to keep pace with the Saints.
Because the Saints also, at home, they have a better roster.
They're going to have to take care of the ball, too. They're not going to be able to turn it over. So many people are counting the Colts out against the Bills Saturday, but Indy seems perfectly fine with that. Earlier this week, Frank Reich said the team is embracing the underdog mentality, and linebacker Darius Leonard says he is looking forward to proving people wrong.
I feel like, for me, man, there's never no pressure. And like Coach said, when you're the center seed, everybody expect you to fiddle. Pretty crazy that, just everybody said that the Bills was going to win. Everybody's counting us out. So, we just can go in there and just be us. Out there, we continue to play good and just let everybody who doubt us, sit down, grab a beer, and just watch our defense run around and make plays.
Think about this. A year ago, the Colts would not have been allowed to be in the playoffs. We didn't have a 7th seed.
Yeah.
So, if I'm Frank Reich, I'm like, guys, we wouldn't even be allowed into this party a year ago. Go have fun, play loose.
I think they're going to play loose, yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge edge there. It's like we wouldn't even be in this game a year ago.
I don't think it's necessarily, I hate the word fair, so I don't even want to use the word fair. But I don't think it's realistic to be upset that people are doubting you. The Bills are great. Josh Allen's having an MVP season
for 10 weeks in a row.
And you have been up and down all season long. It's not this is not an unrealistic situation to say that the Bills. Now, to say that the Bills are going to roll is a different thing. What happens mid-game is a different situation. It's a playoff game. As we know, playoff football is completely different. I want to see what the Bills do in the postseason. I think it really matters, but all the pressure is on the Bills. So pressure-wise, I can see how that can play into your mentality, how you go into a game.
I would love the Bills this weekend if the stadium was full. I feel like it would just be an overwhelming avalanche of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs,
it would be so
loud. Yeah,
so much energy.
This is one of these games where if fans were allowed in, I'd bet.
I think they are letting some fans in, aren't they?
7,000.
Yeah, it's not the full stadium, but it would be a different environment.
Well, it's like sometimes that first round game when a team has to go play the Saints in the Superdome and it's full. And you're like, oh, it's just too much noise. It's too much stuff.
No, if the Bears are playing at New Orleans with a full stadium
over.
there, we're not even talking about
it's a 12-point spread. Game's over.
Absolutely.
Don't even fly there. Just stay home, enjoy your family. Enjoy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line
We had him on about a month ago. He was just stupendous. Michael Robinson, the former Seahawk, NFL Network. Sharp guy is going to be joining us next. God, I'm getting nervous. I just don't want to talk about Bills right now. Here's all I want from the playoffs. To make Nick Wright uncomfortable. And if Buffalo rolls, Nick Wright will not sleep. He'll never tell you that. He's just going to watch that, and he's just going to be like, oh boy, we struggled with Atlanta. I want Nick Wright to have a bad night's sleep on Saturday night.
That's so sinister.
Just literally 48-8 over the Colts. And you can no longer deny, oh, good hell. You don't want any part of them. That's all I care about. Making my coworkers uncomfortable.
That's a new thing, I think. I wish you have a bad night's sleep.
Yeah, I'm rooting against your sleep
That's
tonight.
rude. That's your whole week up.
That's how I roll. I'm cutthroat when it comes to sleep.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
4 years with the Niners, 4 with the Seahawks, a Super Bowl champ, played 8 years in the NFL. Michael Robinson, NFL Network, was a quarterback, was a wide receiver. He did it all. He's joining us now live from the East Coast. So it's interesting. I just had Greg Cosell on, and he talked about the Seahawks offense. And he said, Russ isn't right. He's not seeing things clearly. He perceives pressure that's not really there. You know Russ. You played with Russ. Could he be a little bit, Michael? Were there moments when he got out of his rhythm? You know, were there times he was a streaky quarterback with you?
Absolutely, and first of all, we couldn't have expected Russell Wilson to play the entire 16-game season like he started the first half of the season. Okay, that was almost humanly impossible, right? But what's happening is not only is Russell missing some things, but the defenses are playing these guys differently, right? they're not letting DK Metcalf get behind the defense anymore. They're not letting Tyler Lockett just get clean releases. They're not just rushing in lanes. They're doing line stunts and things like that to confuse Russell Wilson. So this Russell Wilson offense had to kind of have an identity shift. They had to change some things up. They're running the ball a little bit more, and Russell has started to take what the defense gives him. Check the ball down, throw the ball a little bit shorter, and I think in the last week or so, he started again to push the ball down the football field. But as long as this Seahawks offense takes what the defense gives them, and they're close in the fourth quarter, Russell Wilson will always give you a chance to win late in the game.
So I want to talk Lamar Jackson. He's won 81% of his games. I love him. Of the 12 quarterbacks drafted in the last 3 years in the first round, none have won a playoff game. But all I hear is none of them. But all I hear is, well, Lamar's got to win a playoff game, and I'm like, first of all, if he doesn't, so they're going to pay him. Secondly, though, I think he's a little bit a victim of himself now. He was so dynamic, we just raised the bar on him. We just said, okay, you're going to be way up here. And it's like, okay, Bill Parcells, Peyton Manning struggled in the playoffs. You've been in playoff games.
Yep.
It's hard. Where are you today with Lamar Jackson? His game, his evolution, where he's at?
Yeah, Lamar's a special player, but Lamar has to understand his ceiling is going to always be a little lower than what his possible potential could be. Why? Because I think until Lamar gets in his head, I am going to have to win games specifically from the pocket at some point. I'm going to have to do that, and I have to prepare all off season to be able to do that. Running the football is easy for Lamar. You know, seeing the entire field, staying healthy, all those things, that's easy. That's what this kid has been doing his entire life. But when you get into the playoffs, you're talking about the best of the best. You're talking about, good on good. And they're going to stop the running ability of Lamar Jackson, partly not just from a defensive standpoint, but the opposing offense. That's what the Tennessee Titans did last year. That's what they did earlier this season. They got up on this Baltimore Ravens offense and literally played the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson out of that running game plan. So Lamar Jackson threw the football a whole lot and they lost the game. Until Lamar Jackson can beat a team with his arm, throwing the ball down the football field outside the numbers accurately, he's going to always kind of have this question mark about winning in playoff games. Now, it doesn't surprise me that Lamar Jackson may be one of the only quarterbacks who gets the issues about not winning playoff games.
Yeah, I root for young quarterbacks, especially when the avalanche of negativity is around him. So I find myself rooting for him. Now, I think Bruce Arians, in my opinion, faces the most pressure in the playoffs. I do think I really do. Listen, Tom's never gone in as a wild card guy. Tom always wins the first round. Tom's been great. The more this offense looks like Tom's, the better it is. Huh?
We don't regard Bruce Arians as the GOAT of coaching. So why would he be under the most pressure? I think Tom has a little bit more pressure than Bruce Arians. Can he win a championship without a Bill Belichick? Even though we already seen Bill Belichick can't win no championship without Tom Brady, right? You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I don't think Bruce Arians is under the amount of pressure that Tom Brady is. I think Drew Brees is the guy under the most pressure. I mean, how do you have all of these passing records, regarded as one of the top quarterbacks to ever play, and what? You only got one Super Bowl? How many MVPs do you have? Like, how come you don't have more of the team's success? You're highly paid. You made sure you got your money throughout this entire deal, right? How come you don't have more championships? I would have expected a guy who holds that many passing records to have more championships on his resume. I think Drew Brees is under the most pressure.
That's good. So you've been in enough playoffs, and you were in playoffs with like Harbaugh and Pete Carroll. These guys are like high energy. Tell my audience the difference between the Browns Steelers playing Week 17 and the Browns Steelers playing in the playoffs. The intensity of the playoffs, because I don't think the audience, you just think. You played 6 days ago, you're going to play again. How did it change for you?
Yeah, it's totally different. I mean, right, I played fullback in the league, and having to go up against those same linebackers, one may think, oh, yeah, I know how these guys are going to hit me. But at the end of the day, they know how you're going to approach them, too. So you got to change some things up. And you're talking about rematches in the playoffs. Forget that. What about just playoff football to begin with? Actually, Colin, when I first went to the playoffs in 2010, my very first playoff game was that Beastquake game. Seahawks, we played the New Orleans Saints at the time, and we beat them. We weren't supposed to be there. We weren't supposed to win that game, but the intensity of the playoffs, I remember being at the line of scrimmage and you could almost cut the pressure with a butter knife, man. It felt so thick being on the football field, and I had to change how I prepared for football games because I prepared so much for that playoff game. It taught me how to prepare for every game the rest of my career. So yeah, playing the team that you just played a few days ago, there are going to be some familiarities and similarities and things you can call, some experiences you can call on. But it's the playoffs, guys. There is no tomorrow. You don't get to go into the building on Monday and game plan if you lose. You go into the building on Monday to turn in your pads and your notebook and clean out your lockers if you lose this next game.
By the way, you surprised by Brady this year? I mean, it was pretty darn good near the end. Are you a little surprised by it?
No, I'm not surprised. When Tom Brady first got to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I had always said, they may not win a championship in this first year. It's the second year I was looking at just simply because Tom Brady's a chemistry guy. He's a guy that has to, bring that culture with him. It's tough to change an entire organization in one season. Especially a season where a global pandemic is going on and you couldn't just be with your guys in the offseason. So I always thought the more successful time for Tom Brady would be the second year of that 2-year contract. But they're in the tournament this year, Colin, and at the end of the day, we've seen the ebb and flows of this team, and I think it was at first a little bit of a philosophy clash, right? Bruce Arians, Byron Leftwich, they like to push the ball down the football field. Yes, Tom Brady has the arm to do it, but he's used to that matchup type of offense where, you take what the defense gives you and you get the ball down the football field and you play complementary football. That's just not what Bruce Arians has been about through his entire career, and I think throughout the season, you've seen both sides, Tom Brady and Bruce Arians. Those got kind of merged those philosophies together, and now they're getting the ball to all those playmakers on the outside. You saw last game against the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, Antonio Brown just went off, and I expect to see his reps to go up and his impact on this offense to be even more throughout the playoffs.
Good stuff. His Twitter address is @RealMikeRob. He's on NFL Game Day morning, Saturday, Sunday at the NFL Network. I love having him on the show. Good seeing you again, man. Love it, Michael.
Thank you, brother. Anytime.
You bet. It is interesting. He talks about that Saints Seahawks game. I always feel like if you're an offensive player, like I get, defense is basically about blowing stuff up. You're trying to create chaos as an NFL defensive player. But an offensive player is about choreography. And it's amazing if you go back in the history of the playoffs, it's amazing what an offsides can do. I mean, D4 jumps off sides, or the Chiefs beat the Patriots. It's a lot of it's pre-snap. Are you assignment? Are you ready? You can see why teams get tight. You come in, like the Colts this weekend. Total house money. They're a 7 seed. Buffalo's got all this heat. They're at home. They're big favorites. I'm talking myself into nausea right now. I'm not even that Buffalo thing.
I think we need live cams on you and Nick Wright during that.
I'll do an Instagram during that game.
Instagram live.
I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. I should do that.
Well, plus it's early, so you won't be.
That's right.
Too many cocktails and it'll be
No drinking. I want total clarity on these games. No alcohol weekend. Go the extra mile in your own upfitted Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van. You win on Fox Sports Radio's Ultimate Tailgate Rig Sweepstakes. You have until January 24th to enter and get official rules. Go to foxsportsradio.com. Mercedes-Benz Vans. Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Saturday on Fox, MVP candidate Russell Wilson leads the Seahawks against Aaron Donald and the Rams. It's all part of Super Wildcard Weekend, Saturday at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Terry Bradshaw is giving away over $3.5 million. What's next? Find out what the mystery prize is on the Fox NFL pregame show on Saturday. And enter the Super 6 contest during Super Wildcard Weekend for your chance to win. This weekend's contest features the Rams and Seahawks. Colin, which team will have the most rushing yards and by how many?
would say Rams have to run the football if Wolford plays. Seattle can throw the ball. I'll say Rams have more rushing. No, because Seattle's going to win. Seattle has more rushing yards by about 20. This is going to be a low-scoring, physical. Look how many great defensive players are in this game. Jamal Adams, Bobby Wagner, Aaron Donald, Brockhurst, Jalen Ramsey, that rookie Jordan Fuller. Oh my God, Carlos Dunlap. There are so many good defensive players in this
It's going to be a great game.
By the way, I'm way behind on spots. I'm getting ahead of myself because I can't wait to talk to Joe Burrow. Everybody wants to keep their home safe. SimplySafe.com/com. On free security camera with that. So, I liked, my mom told me this as a kid. She said, you like to be liked. And, when Baker Mayfield was a little hostile with me, it was fun, but I don't want Baker to not like me. And so a lot of people, I liked when I found out that Joe Burrow followed me. And I said, all right, I like that. Because I don't want to be a bad guy. These are kids. I root for everybody to succeed. Sometimes I'm a little, I have big opinions, right?
Yeah, I mean, I loved Joe Burrow in the draft. I wanted the Dolphins to give the entire draft to us to go up and get him.
You were his agent.
Yes,
and
I
said he's going to be Tony Romo. Well, he was better. He came out as a rookie, and this is still a rebuilding franchise. 65% completion, passer rating 90, 13 TDs, 5 picks, sometimes running for his life before he was shut down with an injury. So he was better than I said, but I said he's going to be Tony Romo. He's going to win a bunch of games, he'll win a division, and Joe Burrow is now joining us. He's in Los Angeles right now. So let's just get this part out of the way, and then we'll talk about real stuff. So when I don't even think I was critical of you. I said you're going to be Tony Romo. But when all this stuff's going on and I'm a loudmouth, did your parents or a friend or anybody go, oh, coward, oh, God? I mean, did you hear any of it?
Yeah, there was definitely some of that, but, if I took into account every person's opinion from the last 5 years, there's no chance that I would be where I'm at right now. So I just kept my nose down and worked. That's all it was.
Yeah, it's interesting, Joe. Years ago, when you were a high school player, you went to a college, and then if you transferred, you'd be like, oh, that's trouble. He could. But Kyler Murray transferred, and Justin Fields transferred, and Baker transferred, and you transferred. So the stigma's gone. The reality is, you guys want to play. So let's go back to Ohio State, because my initial feeling was, why that kid transfer? I don't understand. I mean, JT Barrett, he can beat him out. So why did you transfer from Ohio State?
So JT was the starter there for my first 2 years, and he's the Big Ten passing touchdown all-time leader. So he was the starting quarterback. Nobody was beating him out. And then my last fall camp there, me and Dwayne Haskins were battling, and I break my hand. I think it was the practice after fall camp had ended, 2 weeks before the first game. So I couldn't throw for. I came back a little sooner than I should have, but I didn't throw for about 4 or 5 weeks. And Dwayne went in against Team Up North, Michigan, the last game, played really well, ended up winning the game, and then he was kind of the starter from there on.
Yeah, and you kind of knew, okay, I got to get reps. Because your dad's a coach. You know the game. You got to get, nobody's going to draft you if you don't get reps. So you go to LSU, and you obviously don't doubt yourself. You had a solid year, not spectacular, before the great year. Has there ever been a moment in your journey? Injuries change the way you think psychology. Was there ever a moment, Joe, that you thought, maybe I'm going to go, I'll be a coach. This has been fun. I love it. Did you doubt yourself or the journey for a minute?
Never for a second. I think I felt like I worked really, really hard for 3 years, and for those 3 years I wasn't playing, and I had faith that that hard work would pay off, because if you don't have that faith, then, all of that is for nothing, and I couldn't really, bring myself to think that I worked that hard for no reason. So I just continued to do it, and put money in the bank, and hoping that it would pay off for me someday, and it eventually did.
I thought you had a spectacular year until the injury. We had said by week 2. I mean, I just said this kid, there's an it. He's better than Romo, and I love Romo. I thought Romo was a gamer. How would you evaluate your rookie year? Let's take the injury out of it. The games you played.
I think I played well for the most part. I had some pretty tough games. Pittsburgh, Baltimore come to mind that next year I need to be more consistent in those big games. But I think for the most part I played well. I was really efficient, but there's still some things that obviously need to be corrected. I wasn't great with the deep ball, which I was pretty disappointed in because I've always been pretty good at that. So that's an emphasis for me going into this offseason, is hitting those big plays and creating outside the offense and creating those big plays on my own.
This may sound like a weird question, but you're an Ohio kid, and all of a sudden you're quarterbacking an Ohio team. You're facing the Steelers. You're facing the Browns. Was there a moment in your rookie year when you literally went under center and thought, oh, this is surreal? My dad's a college coach. I'm a high school player. I left Ohio. I came back. Now you're in this division, which is tough. Cleveland and Ohio and Pittsburgh. Was there a pinch yourself moment this year for you?
Not during the season. Leading up to the draft, knowing where I was going to go, I think it was exciting for me to come back to Cincinnati, come back to Ohio, and actually get to play for the fans. But during the season, there's no time for that. You got to win games. You got to play well right now. Otherwise, you see what's happening across the league. If you don't play well, people are trying to run you out of town. So there's no time to pinch yourself, say, wow, that's the Steelers. Wow, I'm playing Thursday Night Football against the Browns. You got to play well.
Did you hit it off with Zach Taylor, your head coach, quickly, or did it take a while?
It was immediate. I think Zach is going to be a great coach for a long time. I'm happy to be in the position that I'm in and to help build this organization, but it's going to be on Zach's back. He's the leader of what we're trying to do, and he's awesome.
Yeah. Does he ever, your dad's a coach, so you're obviously coachable. You've known it. Does he ever say things, do things, and you think of your dad, that you've had that coach in your ear your entire life, as a quarterback with a dad as a coach? Do you think it actually makes you a little more coachable, that you have a little advantage of the lexicon and the language that you grew up with?
Yeah, I think it does definitely make me a little more coachable. But my dad, as far as my dad goes, he kind of stayed away from the coach role with me. I think he got his coaching fix in when he was coaching, with his own players, and he was kind of just a dad to me. But then when he retired, he didn't get his coaching fix in, so now he's starting to coach me a little more and getting in my ear a little bit. So that's fun. But yeah, I think growing up around football and around a coach definitely probably made me a little more coachable.
When you go look at a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields, these are super talented guys. If you could say, okay, here's two things, guys, that'll make your transition easier. Maybe somebody told you what they were, maybe they didn't. But are there a couple of things that really do help college to pro in the transition process?
I think the transition is easier than ever. Back in the day, you had to be a 6'6", 250-pound strong arm quarterback, and those days are kind of gone. I think coaches in the NFL are getting really, really good at understanding what their quarterbacks do well and adapting what they do to what the quarterbacks do. So, I think it's easier than ever, but I think the biggest thing is just being able to adapt very quickly. During games, gone are the days where, you go into a game, you see 2 or 3 defenses the entire time, you know your adjustments, you know exactly what you're getting every play. Teams have a new defense every single week, new third down defense, a new blitz. So you're going to see things that you don't know what they are, and you just have to be prepared to adapt to those certain things that defensive coordinators throw at you and have answers in your back pocket for, a lot of different defenses.
So when you look, SEC is the best conference in terms of overall defense, the speed of the athletes, Alabama, Florida, LSU. I mean, you practiced every day against NFL dudes at LSU. They had 14 guys drafted. And then you play the Steelers, who have, 6 Pro Bowl level guys. When you look at let's go pre-snap. You walk to the line at the college level at LSU. You walk to the line against the Steelers. You're talking about now 28-year-old man, Joe. They've been in the league a long time, Mike Tomlin. Does it force you before the ball is snapped? Do you have? Is it a lot cognitively? Can it be a real challenge at the NFL level? What do you see that's different? different? How do you adapt to it?
Yeah, so, my pre-snap process has never changed. I, look at the front, look at the linebackers, look at the safety rotation, look at the leverage of the corners, their eyes inside on me, or they playing man, and their eyes on the receiver. So my pre-snap never changes, but you just see a lot more things. I always give an example. We were playing the Colts. We were up 21-0, and in college you're up 21-0. You probably have one more series left. In the NFL, you still have to keep your foot on the gas pedal because Philip Rivers is over there getting ready to score 24 straight. And that's what he did against us. And then the last play of the game, we were in a 2-minute drill. The Mike linebacker and the Sam linebacker walk up on the ball. We're in a 3-by-1 formation. I had never seen that in my life. They just had two guys covering three. I'm like, what is going on? What is this defense? And then they run the safety. They were given a single high. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little technical right here. But they're in a single high shell. The safety comes down into a quarter shell, and they just play 2 over 3 of the field. And I'm watching film. I ended up throwing a pick. And 2-minute drill to this game, and I'm watching film. Like, I could have just checked to this play. Like, they don't have enough people over there. And so it was games like that, plays like that through my first year were big time learning experiences for me. And I think are going to help me a lot going forward.
Yeah. Anybody talk trash because you're a rookie quarterback? I mean, T.J. Watt or somebody get in your ear a little bit?
Fletcher Cox for sure. We played the Eagles in Philly, and he kind of shoved me out of bounds a little late after I threw the ball away. And I look at the ref, I'm like, that was a little late. And he said, you're not getting that call, Rook, not yet. So I think there are a lot of little things like that throughout the year that were pretty fun.
Yeah, that Fletcher Cox that answer doesn't surprise me. Thank God there's not many Fletcher Coxes in the league because he is incredible. So now you're in I know you're at in LA. You've done your rehab. Let's talk about that. It's scary. Rehab stinks. Joy was a great athlete. It's no fun. Was there a moment when you went under the knife? You were anxious. You were worried. How's it gone for you?
Yeah, as soon as the injury happened, I was obviously devastated. I wanted to finish out the year and finish strong. I thought there were a lot of winnable games in this part of the schedule that we had. And then the injury happened, and that was devastating for me. But rehab has gone really well. I'm past the worst part. I'm starting to feel like a normal human again. I can walk around, put my clothes on, do what I need to do. The first week and a half, 2 weeks was pretty miserable.
Yeah.
Needed help doing everything, but I'm getting more independent, and it's gonna be nice to get some alone time. Not having to rely on everybody for a little bit, but things are on track to start the season the way I need to. Practice a little bit in fall camp and get ready to go.
Wow. Now, some suggested you wouldn't be ready for the opener. What's your gut feeling?
I think I'll be ready.
All right.
I think it'll be just fine.
Okay. All right. I know what I'm rooting for, but I hear all those things. Well, I think you're a remarkable player. You're a good sport. You're just going to be great. And I love that you're doing this. You're always welcome. And by the way, I'm thick-skinned, so if I say something stupid, just go to my direct message, rip me for it. I'm totally comfortable with that. I'm really good. Joy knows. Sometimes blah blah blah. I can't cash the checks I talk about sometimes. Oh, by the way, Joe's going to be joining Joel Klatt and Reggie Bush next Monday for the Fox Sports College Football Watch Party. Good for you. It's on Fox Sports digital platforms for the title game with Klatt and Reggie Bush. Joe Burrow, we're honored that you stopped by, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Thanks for having me.
You got it. How about that? What a good kid.
Great.
There are some. We had like Terry McLaurin on yesterday. Some guys are easy to root for. You just want you're rooting for them. Like I've told my kids before. If you care about something, I care about it. But if you don't care about something, I don't care about it. So I'm not going to take you to basketball practice if you're not into it. When you see a young athlete like Terry McLaurin or Joe Burrow, and you know they're totally committed to it, well, it makes it easy to root for. The worst is a guy's got talent. He's kind of half-assing it.
Honestly, just listening to him talk about rehab is impressive. Because if you're excited about rehab, is the worst. Like the surgery gives you anxiety because obviously it's surgery and it's always scary. But rehab is such a daunting process, and it's so frustrating. Like, even him just saying, like, he needs help doing everything, and just getting to the point where you can walk again and having good spirits about it is a good thing.
By the way, start the new year with ButcherBox. ButcherBox.com/herd. Ultimate keto bundle right now. 2 pounds of ground beef, 3 pounds of bone-in chicken, 1 pork butt. ButcherBox.com/herd. Joy Taylor with the news.
Herd on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
In 2018, the Rams made a deep postseason run all the way to the Super Bowl. And
Yeah.
after missing the playoffs last year, Aaron Donald thinks that this year's team has what it takes to duplicate the success they had 2 years ago.
We got all the pieces to the puzzle. I think we're playing lights out on defense, and our offense is doing things to the point where they can manage games and still make things happen. To help us win. So when you got that, you definitely going into a confidence, and I feel like we're in a position, to get to where we want to get to. We just got to go week by week and just dominate.
Yeah, the bigger problem is Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady. Just think about this, Joy. After this weekend, if certain teams win, here's the Final Four in the NFC. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, and
Tom Brady?
Tom Brady. That's your Final Four quarterbacks.
Sounds easy.
Yeah, cinchy.
Well, FoxBet has the Seahawks favored by 3.5. I agree with him that their defense is great. Like, they have stars everywhere. They're solid. That's not my concern. Are you going to be able to put up enough points to take down any of those teams? And that's what any of those quarterbacks.
And Goff's lost confidence. He's not playing, and now he's got a broken
Well,
hand.
he's just had surgery last week.
Yeah, and he was before the surgery. He didn't feel comfortable. Now he's post. Surgery. It's a one and done.
I don't think that there's. I still have confidence in the Rams as an organization, Sean McVay,
Yeah,
and
that's
what
not
they've
it.
built.
Yeah.
I think that they need a whole healthy year
Yeah.
and a few extra pieces, and they'll be back where they were before. I don't think that this is the year for them, though,
Yeah.
despite the fact that their defense is great. So Kevin Stefanski will be forced to miss the Browns playoff game, testing positive for COVID, but he doesn't think his absence will change the way his team prepares and performs in this game.
I'm disappointed for anybody that can't be a part of this, whether due to injury or whatever. Disappointed for Joel Bitonio, obviously. All of our guys that can't be a part of this is disappointing to me. But we have to find a way. I think the players understand, Dan, that it really doesn't matter who's the head coach on Sunday. They know how we play.
FoxBet has the Steelers favored by 6 right now. Acting head coach Mike Prefer says he's going to try and be an extension of Stefanski on Sunday. This is, I keep saying, this game makes me nervous because it's the Steelers and I'm emotionally invested, and the last thing I want to do is listen to Browns fans tell me how they beat us in the playoffs for the next year. That's exhausting. But the Browns can win this game if they can run the ball.
Yes, that's it. Run the ball. First 12 plays will be scripted anyway. But some are suggesting that Kevin Stefanski should be able to at least call plays from home. The reason he's not, as far as I can tell, is the NFL is very touchy on having electronic advantages.
Yeah.
And the feeling is if we don't have a camera on you, then you could be home looking at film, communicating with people.
Well, also it's just like things go wrong, and you need to be in the building. Look, it's awful. We're all dealing with this pandemic, and it's a terrible situation. Everyone, including the Steelers, I'm sure, would prefer that they have all their pieces there, and it's a fair game, and the best team wins. Like, that's what everybody wants, but that's not the situation that we're dealing with during pandemic. Can't say 2020 anymore. During pandemic, so this is the situation. It's unfortunate, but I really feel like it falls on the Steelers. The Browns need to run the ball, but if Ben doesn't turn the ball over and they can get some semblance of a running game, then they will win handily. If either of those things don't happen, I think it's going to actually be close. Yeah. Finally, Kawhi Leonard played his first back-to-back game since April 2017 this week. He was in the game for 37 minutes Tuesday against the Spurs and 35 minutes last night against the Warriors, and he said he plans on continuing to play in more back-to-back games going forward.
I think I'll be playing pretty much. The last few years I was injured. I was working on getting my legs stronger. And, it's been a long time, but I was patient and, I'm able to play.
Good. I want to see it. You should play back-to-back games.
I agree. I'm glad that he said that he was injured. I'm not ever going to doubt on if they're saying that their body didn't feel right. Their body is their business, like literally their business, and also it's the business of what they do every day. So if Kawhi is saying he doesn't feel healthy enough and he needs to protect himself and not play in back-to-back games, then that's what he needs to do. But I also think the NBA has kind of officially gotten away from the load management thing. And it's specifically kind of because of what happened with the Clippers. Like, the load management thing was something we all kind of accepted. Like, Kawhi's not going to play in back-to-back games. He's going to sit a bunch of games. Like, this is just what he agreed on with the Clippers. And then the Clippers had a meltdown in the bubble. And now it's like, okay, well, that didn't work. So it always felt kind of like a little bit of an excuse, even though I don't believe that. But to fans, it does. And I think that's kind of been phased out.
Yeah, I mean, it started with the Spurs 15 years ago, and it was a tactic mostly to have veteran players rested for big games, and Greg Popovich felt it was unfair. How come we're always playing the afternoon TV games? It screws, because if you are popular, it's like in the NFL, the good teams end up on Sunday Night Football. Nobody wants to play that game. You want to be home by Sunday night with your family. So it started as a tactic, give an inch, take a mile, then more and more players thought, I could take that game off.
Yeah, everyone thinks LeBron started this. It really was Popovich.
LeBron takes games off at the end of the year.
It's not that players shouldn't take games off.
Yeah.
It sucks for the fans. Obviously, there's no fans in the stands right now, but when they are, it sucks for fans to go to the one game that they get to go to all year and the stars aren't playing. It sucks for the networks who pay hundreds of millions, billions of dollars for these games to not have the stars on TV. It's not good. And now, if it's necessary to keep yourself healthy for the playoffs, which is what we judge you for, then that works. But Kawhi saying that this was a health issue, I believe him.
Good stuff, Joe, with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Live.
Okay, it was a disaster in the first year, did better and redeemed itself. Quarterback face bracket. I'll pick the playoffs based solely on the better quarterback should win the game. Who's the better quarterback today?
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
All right, weather can be unpredictable. Use Michelin Endurance XD silicone wiper blades. Walmart's the place to get them. Last 2 times longer than other blades. So it's called the quarterback face bracket. Disaster the first time I tried it. I picked the games, the playoff games, all the way through the playoffs, based solely on who today is the better quarterback. Today, this morning, who is the better quarterback today? And I don't care about your coach. I don't care about your defense. I don't care about your weapons. This morning, what does it tell me today? So are we ready to go on this? Here is our quarterback face bracket. Okay. Music here, Greg. So which one do you want me to do first?
Let's start with the Josh Allen Phillip Rivers matchup.
Okay. Well, Josh Allen is the most improved quarterback in the NFL this year, passing yards per game and completion percentage. And since week 13, he has 7 touchdowns and 3 picks. So that would be Josh Allen. Baker Mayfield, Ben Roethlisberger. Baker is 0-3 road games against the Steelers. Big Ben has more Super Bowls than Baker has playoff performances. In this spot, with better receivers, Ben will be the better quarterback. Lamar Jackson against Ryan Tannehill. Remember, in this spot, last year, Tannehill attempted just 29 combined passes in the Titans' 2 postseason wins. The Ravens have more confidence in Lamar running their offense than the Titans have Tannehill running theirs. So Josh Allen, Big Ben, and Lamar Jackson win those games. Now it's Lamar against Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has the best playoff passer rating in the history of the league. He has scored 30-plus points in all of his career playoff games. He is off a bye. So in this spot, remember, who's the best coach in the NFL? Off a bye.
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid. So in this spot, Mahomes is or Josh Allen? Josh Allen. Roethlisberger's passer rating has been under 85 in his last 6 games. And after an intense win over Cleveland, Josh Allen an easier win over Phillip Rivers. By the way, Josh Allen, if you go and look at this matchup, you think Josh Allen has no experience. Ben does, but in his last 9 playoff games, he's 3-6. So that's 3 wins that Baker doesn't have. But I like Sean McDermott. No, I can't talk coach. In this moment, Josh Allen playing better football will be better than Big Ben. So Josh Allen, and now it's Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes.
Remember, it's quarterback face bracket.
This is called the quarterback face bracket. Over the last 5 weeks, Josh Allen has more touchdowns, fewer turnovers, and a higher passer rating than Patrick. And Mahomes has tied for the most turnovers in the NFL over the last 4 weeks of the season. Josh Allen in this moment is the better, more confident quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. All right, let's go to the NFC. Goff, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, let's not waste any time. Breeze, Trubisky. Likewise, let's not waste any time. Brady against Alex Smith. Tom Brady, 41 playoff games, won 30. Alex Smith in his last 5 is 1-4. Breeze, Russell Wilson, and Tom Brady, that's pretty light lifting for me. Advance. Brady against Aaron Rodgers. Aaron in his 6 career home playoff games. Aaron Rodgers, 13 TDs, a pick, and 107 passer rating. Picking solely on quarterback in that spot, Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, now it gets interesting. Russell Wilson, 24th in passing yards a game over the last 9 games. He led the NFL in the first 9 weeks. Last 9, 24th. Brees is 8-1 in his last 9 starts. In this moment, Drew Brees will be the better quarterback in this spot. Now we get down to Brees and Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has 14 games with a 100-plus passer rating this year. No other quarterback history of the league has done it. Aaron Rodgers, quarterback face, gives us a Super Bowl of Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen.
Who are you picking? Colin.
Josh Allen's 1 career playoff game, 69 passer rating. Rodgers in 1 career Super Bowl, 111 passer rating. The intensity of this game and the anxiety created, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Aaron Rodgers wins our quarterback face bracket where I pick based solely on who will be the better quarterback in that moment.
Nick Wright's going to lose his mind over that, you know that.
I am so proud of this. By the way, I got Mahomes right last year.
You did.
I had Mahomes in the Super Bowl last year. Black Rifle Coffee Company, veteran owned. Get 20% off your purchase. BlackRifleCoffee.com, code HERD. Ludicrous